beyond the 7 hills, beyond the 7 seas, deep in the woods, lived a wise old man called Emlyn. He wasn't a wizard. He wasn't a magician. He was a wise old man who wrote stories. Lots and lots and lots of stories. He had 4 helpers who travelled far and wide in search of adventure and stories which they brought back to Emlyn. They were called North, West, South,
Hello,
and East.
So, what do all of you have for me?
Oh,
God, you've got to be kidding me. There was snow, and more snow.
That's not what he wants to know. I went to a fishing village and saw a boy being chased by others just because he couldn't run fast.
Why do you always see such terrible things? I saw a deer, a bear, a squirrel, a rabbit.
There speaks the Encyclopedia of Animals again. I saw 2 beautiful kites flown by these 2 Japanese boys. Let me tell you all about it. Then perhaps you can write my story first.
How many stories have you written since we have been away?
Well, actually, not one.
What? Don't tell me you've become lazy like me.
I actually forgot the stories you told me. My hand begins to ache from writing. My eyes become very tired.
Emlyn, you've grown old.
I thought you'd never notice. I've been thinking. I can't keep writing new stories all the time. I think it's time for me to retire.
But what will happen to all those children waiting for your stories?
Oh, they'll get their stories. All of you must take on my job.
Oh, no, I can't.
I'll write poetry, but...
Oh, me? Right. I think I'll take a nap.
Oh, no, you don't.
But I've never ever written.
Nor me.
Not nor me. Nor I.
One of the things you have to watch out for when you write stories, especially for children, is to be sure your grammar is correct.
Well, of course my grammar is correct. I don't do mistakes.
Make mistakes.
Can't I write a poem?
Of course, you can write anything, as long as it's liked and understood by children.
I'll write about a doe.
And what about a doe?
Oh, actually, the story is very complicated. You see, there's a doe, but she's not really a doe, she's a princess. And there's a fox, but it's not really a fox, it's a wizard.
And there's a forest, which is not really a forest. And a story, which is not really a story.
Keep quiet, East.
You keep quiet, West.
Will both of you shut up? I can't hear myself think around here. Emlyn, it's quite easy to write for children. All you have to do is to write a simple story.
It seems very easy to write a simple story, but it's not really all that easy.
That's just it. I mean, what you'd write for a 4 or 5-year-old, you wouldn't write for a 14-year-old.
Nor can you write very complicated stories.
Nor can you use long, convoluted sentences.
And nor can you use very difficult words. You can't let them get boring either.
Oh, it's very simple. All you have to do is write a simple story, which is not complicated, not difficult, has simple sentences, and is not boring.
I think I need a nap. Come on, lazy bones. Think. That goes against my motto.
I think you're putting the cart before the horse. Don't think of what you can't do, but of what you can. First of all, put yourself in the shoes of your reader. How old are they?
Oh, my audience is very, very young.
And you were going to write a poem for them.
Why not? How about... Twinkle, twinkle, little star, how I wonder what you are. Up above the world so high, Like a diamond in the sky.
If you must sing, must it be so out of tune?
That's it. Look at the poem. What have we got? 1, that there's something called a star. 2, that it shines in the sky. And 3, that it twinkles like a diamond. So we have got 3 pieces of information in what is a very simple but not easy to write poem.
Where I come from, we learned lots of poems. In fact, my earliest recollections are of my grandmother telling me lots of stories. I never got to look at a book till I went to school. I never learned to read till I was about 8 or 9.
Yes, I know. In countries where reading and writing skills are not so common, children don't get to read stories until they're quite old. This has led to these lands being very rich in an oral tradition, but poor in the written form. Do you see a lot of children's books when you travel east?
Well, recently I've seen more and more books, but they are nowhere near the books that North and West bring to show you.
Oh, but your books are good for children. They tell what a good child should do.
Yes, but you don't have to hit them with a message on their heads. Now look at this story on the clever rabbit, and the moral of the story in the end, in a neat little box, which says, wisdom is greater than strength.
You're right. We forget that the child has a mind of his own and doesn't want everything handed on a platter. Remember, don't talk down to the child. It sounds so patronizing. But always keep putting yourself in the shoes of your reader. The child is tired of being a little boy or a little girl always.
Oh, God! Look at this book. Just look at this. It's fantastical. Hellfire and all that.
God, it's really lurid.
Oh, I don't know. It's not so bad.
Oh sure, there must be some better ways of illustrating this.
I agree with you, South. These illustrations are rather loud and garish. They could have been done in a much better fashion.
But look at this, Emlyn. Look at these pictures.
Yes. These illustrations are rather beautiful.
Yes, they are. What's wrong with it?
Yes.
Well, for one, the language is stilted because it's trying to rhyme mentions with occasions. And one more thing. Wherever you go, there are camels tall that know the mighty desert's call. Bad lyrics.
But who is this book meant for? I mean, the illustrations aren't bad, but they're wrong.
Wrong?
I mean, look at these muted colors. It's something that you or I might enjoy, but not a child, surely.
Also, the concept of understanding the desert's call is not something you could explain to a small child. It's too adult.
What do you mean?
I mean, the illustrations are the kind that an adult would enjoy. They're subtle. But the words, those are totally different. Those are for children. I mean, it's neither here nor there.
There's hope for you yet, North. While we're talking about illustrations, I'd like you to look at some books and tell me what's in common.
I hate books that show fat men as being funny. I mean, there's so many fat men in the world. I'm sure they don't find themselves funny all the time.
That's it. All these illustrations show cliches, which may or may not be true.
Look at this man. He's dark and looks uncouth. He's a thief. And this prince is blonde and fair. He's good.
But then that's in our language as well. We say as pure as snow or darker than evil or many things like that. What about Dutch courage, French leave?
And that's what we have to watch out for. Remember, a child's mind is like a clean slate, and whatever values are passed on will ultimately affect the mental makeup of that child.
Why? All one should do is write the moral of the story. That way we would make clear what we want to say. That would be good.
And boring. Surely we can pass on values without preaching from a pulpit.
Well, one can talk about why people shouldn't be greedy with a story like Midas, about the man who turned everything he touched into gold.
There's a story written by Premchand, the great Indian writer. It's called Eidgah, or the Festival of Eid. It's about this little boy Hamid who goes to the fair with his friends. All his friends buy toys, and Hamid buys a pair of tongs for his grandmother. It's lovely, and that doesn't have a moral at the end. It's one of my favorite stories.
I love reading. I remember when I was a child, I used to love reading Alice in Wonderland. I'm sure I'd enjoy it still.
That's the hallmark of a good story. As Hans Christian Andersen said, when you tell a story to children, remember that a grown-up too may be listening at the door.
But that's what I can't understand. What do you write about? What do children like?
Even I wouldn't know that. I'd end up writing something, a kind of mixture of everything.
I think a child enjoys reading mysteries and adventures.
And stories on travel in space, land or sea.
I think children like stories about nature, about birds, animals.
And they like real-life stories too.
I think you've all answered your own questions.
You could write about anything. Just anything.
I'm sure all of you enjoyed a lot of stories when you were young.
Well, in the beginning, all you have to do is just choose the themes that you enjoyed most. And then you're just going to take off.
Oh, I like Sindbad the Sailor.
And Gulliver's Travels.
What about Voyage to the Moon or Star Trek? I love those.
Oh, Star Trek was mere fantasy.
Do you like fairy tales, Eve?
Of course I do.
Well, aren't fairy tales just fantasy?
Well, but not all stories are fantasies.
No, not necessarily. Some of them are factual.
Well, like these books. The Story of Flight, Prehistoric Animals, Who is Who at the Zoo, and this one, How Men Learn to Fly. I used to love reading about aeroplanes when I was young.
And this was my favorite.
And then there are stories with characters that resemble you and me.
Oh, you know that boy Swami in R.K. Narayan's book? He used to remind me of myself when I was young.
And don't you think I look like Beauty in Beauty and the Beast?
Now that's fantasy. There are lots of stories that are part truth and part fantasy.
I think fantasies are very tough to write.
Well, all of us dream, don't you?
But dreams are dreams, not fantasies.
Well, you dream of being a beautiful lady when you grow up.
Or suppose you wish to be a pilot, or a very good orator, or a dancer, or anything. You are fantasizing. So all you have to do is write about your fantasies.
A fantasy may not follow the logic of the daily world.
It can alter, waver, and follow its own course.
I always wonder why we fantasize.
Oh, because we want our dreams to come true. So we just cling on to them and just hope that by some magic they come real.
Well, it could be just for fun.
But some fantasies can be very scary and ghoulish.
Do you remember when you were young and you were reading Monkey's Paw? I tapped you on your shoulder and you jumped out of your skin.
Oh yes, but what about the time when you were reading Frankenstein's Monster? All I did was open the door and you ran screaming out of the door.
I did not.
Oh yes, you did.
Being scared is part and parcel of life.
Hey, South, wake up. Daydreaming again. That's my job.
Oh, I was just dreaming. I'd grown as famous as Amlin.
Enough is enough. Now let's get down to do some work.